Hi Rand, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm really great to see you on our online conference. I have some questions from our students that want to ask you the next things. You have great tradition to make SEO and marketing predictions. Which of your predictions on 2015 came through?
Well, a few of them have so far. I think, let's see. So I had a prediction around Google and Twitter getting back together, and it looks like that is happening, which is pretty interesting. The relationship between them hasn't. I don't think it's gotten to its full point yet, but definitely made its way partially there. I think we are continuing to see the trend of Google providing a lot of instant answers in search results, doing more interactive tools. That was one of the other ones. I talked about Facebook potentially indexing some forms of web content, and they have definitely been crawling the web. We haven't yet seen how they're going to be using that, but I suspect with the switch from graph search to just Facebook search, and with some of the publisher content they're putting on there, that one looks like it's going to be true. EU taking regulatory action against Google. That one obviously is coming true. And I think, what is another one that is in there? Well, Foursquare Swarm, that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, so we'll see. Those ones definitely though.
Okay, thank you. Moz has one of the greatest blogs in SEO world. What tools of content marketing gives you the greatest result? Which of them you plan to develop in future?
Yeah. So we have, we do use a number of tools. We really like the folks at Sprout Social for some of our social stuff. We use Buffer for some of our scheduling stuff. We have developed some in-house tools around content. One of the big ones that's been powerful for us is a metric called One Metric. And you can look it up on the Moz blog, but One Metric basically takes all of the different analytics, things like page views and time on site and engagement rate and unique visitors. It also looks at all the social shares and links and mentions and combines all of those into a single metric that's best correlated with how a piece of content performs for us overall. And so each week, each month, we can see which pieces of content are working best and which ones aren't via this One Metric dashboard.
Okay, we've gathered different questions from our students, and how do you think? What question was one of the most popular?
Oh, sorry, say that again?
What are the best ways of getting links in 2015, and will they still work next year? The question was about links.
Yeah. I think links still work in 2015. They're absolutely still important, still powerful. I think they're still going to be important and powerful for at least another few years. I don't think they're disappearing entirely, but I would say the ways that you get links, at least in the U.S. in particular, where Google's web spam team is very effective, and they shut down a lot of manipulative linking practices. The important thing, for us is to find links that are editorially given. And that means that has made content and content promotion some of the very best ways to earn links. So if you can develop content that an audience cares about deeply, that they want to promote and share, that has been a very, very successful path for a lot of marketers. And I think it'll continue to be that way. One of my favorite little tactics, by the way, is to find content that was very successful in the past, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and update it. It doesn't have to be your own content. It can be content from anywhere on the web in your field. You create an updated, better version of that, and then you can reach out to the folks who covered it or linked to it or enjoyed it last time, and they can help it spread. They can help link to it. That's a great way to sort of, take over one of those big ranking spots.
And what about role of links in Bing and Yahoo? What do you think about it?
Role of links in apps?
In Bing and Yahoo.
Oh, Bing and Yahoo. Yeah, I mean, Bing's algorithm is, I would say, maybe even a little more sensitive to links than Google is. and Bing powers Yahoo search results everywhere except Japan, I think. So that is certainly still the case that links are very powerful in those two.
Okay, thank you. How using HTTPS algorithm changed ranking? How do you value impact of this algorithm?
I think HTTPS was actually a very, very minor algorithmic impact. It was so small that for a lot of folks it didn't really help. And so what I would say is if you want to go HTTPS, do it for security reasons, do it for user trust reasons. Don't just do it for SEO reasons. It's not a big enough impact to have a difference. And when you switch over all your URLs, that can be a real pain.
Did you have any solution in Moz that can analyze which different industries use this HTTPS and which of them don't?
We don't monitor HTTPS sort of percentages. We could look at it in our web index, but it's not been something that we've looked at in the past now.
Okay, you think that it's not very important, yes?
No, I don't think it's very important.
Okay, thank you. The next one question. Bing versus Google. Will Google lose its share? Your predictions?
No, I don't think Google's going to lose much share at all. I mean, Bing took over the relationship with Firefox, the default relationship with Firefox. They took over the relationship with AOL. They got 2 or 3 percentage points of market share in the U.S. and almost none overseas outside the U.S. So I don't see it. I think the only folks who have a chance of disrupting Google is something entirely new. And that might be vertical by vertical. So, you could see that instead of people searching for, where to go and what restaurants to use on Google, they go to Yelp and they go to TripAdvisor. And instead of searching for flights on Google, they go to Kayak and or Booking.com, right? And instead of searching for job ads on Google or where to get a job, they search Indeed or something like that. So I think in the verticals, there's some competition that's strong, but as a major global search engine, Google is kind of running away with it right now.
What tactics of Bing SEO you can recommend for our students and our visitors?
Of Bing SEO?
Yes.
Well, like I said, Bing is a little more sensitive to links, and they're also a little more, they also care a little bit more about exactly matching the keyword terms and phrases that you're looking at. So if you are doing SEO for Bing, you want to be a little bit more classic in your SEO process. They're not quite as intuitive around topic modeling as Google is, and so you need to be very specific with the terms and phrases that you're targeting. Anchor text is still a big signal for Bing. If you are looking at your crawl and indexing ratio with Bing, you definitely want to be using Bing's webmaster tools. And they've got maybe about 15% market share in the U.S. and probably 4% globally. So it can provide a little bit of benefit.
Okay, thank you. How does Moz react to algorithm changes? What new tools do we have to expect in the nearest future?
Yeah, so algorithm changes are something that's very important for us. We monitor what Google's algorithm is doing through Mozcast, and that's a project from Dr. Pete Myers. And what Dr. Pete does is he monitors every day 10,000 search results here in the U.S., I think 10,000 mobile results, and several results from different Googles around the world. And then he looks at what's changed and how much change there is. So if we see that there's been a lot of change, Pete will essentially dive in and he'll try and figure out which sites benefited, which sites lost out, what features predicted that things went up and down, what do we think that is. Sometimes we'll reach out to Google and ask them if they want to tell us, which rarely, but occasionally they do. And then we'll write up our analysis usually within a week of a major algorithm change, point out winners and losers, point out...
Okay, thank you. The next one question is, what about G+? Does it have any chances? What will it live? Will it die like other Google social projects?
I think at this point, unless we see some major investment from Google+, I think it's going to be a pretty quiet network. It's only got about 3.5 million active users right now, and that's just not enough to make a huge difference. So I would say you might want to think about other networks to focus your energy on right now.
What tools in G+ do you think are really good for SEOs and they have to use them?
Well, I mean, there were a few things that I really liked, but most of them have disappeared, to be honest. I think the one tool that's still pretty good and does measure Google+ activity along with others is BuzzSumo. So that's a great way to see which content is performing well on a given network, and then you can plug those URLs into Google+ and see kind of what's going on, what's the activity around them. But Google+ took away my favorite feature for SEO, which was ripples. So yeah, it's not as good as it used to be.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what is the best practice to work with multi-regional websites? TLDs, subdomains, and so on. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so for websites that are targeting multiple languages and multiple countries, the way that I think about it is this. If you're a very big company and you have a presence and you have a marketing team in each different country, I would have different websites for each country. So, if Moz were to go internationally, I might have moz.co.uk in the United Kingdom. I might have, moz.de in Germany. I might have moz.in in India, those kinds of things. However, if you're a smaller company, and Moz actually is a smaller company, and you're not going to have a marketing team for each of those properties, you're not going to have a physical presence in each of those countries, I prefer using this subfolder approach. So I would go with something like moz.com/UK or moz.com/DE. And the reason it's hard to build up separate link equity and a separate sort of marketing effort in each of those countries unless you really have a presence on the ground there. The one thing I'd recommend against is subdomains. I know that Wikipedia does it, and so a lot of people think that that's a good way to go, but I'd recommend strongly against it. I would either go with separate domains or I would go with subfolders.
Okay, thank you. What do you think about influence of links from doc, PDF, PPT files, link from PDF documents in Google Drive? How do you think, or do you know, they have any weight for ranking or not?
Some of them do, but not all of them. I believe PDFs, Google confirmed that PageRank and link equity does pass through links in PDFs, and you can see that with a lot of research documents. So a PDF is a way to certainly share link equity and to earn link equity. PowerPoint files, it's tough to say. Google appears to be indexing them sort of effectively. A lot of PowerPoint files are uploaded to SlideShare, which does provide links in the document, but those are no followed, so they're probably not passing link equity. For other types of files, my advice would be to test, and if you're uncertain, I would try and go back to HTML, and I would work on that conversion. I think unless there's some really important reason why it needs to be in a different document format, go with HTML or PDF.
Okay, thank you. What is the role of brand factors in Google algorithm? When somebody mentions your brand or URL in text, is it so good enough as you get a link?
Yeah, it provides some benefit, but it's probably indirect. So, if someone types Moz on a website or a web page in their content, but doesn't actually link to us, that's unlikely to provide much direct value. It's certainly not going to provide any value like a link does, but it might get more people being aware of the company, it might get more people searching. It may be picked up as a signal by Google from a content perspective and a topic modeling perspective to connect the word Moz with the words and phrases around it in the sentence, in the paragraph, on the...
Okay, thank you. One more question. What do you recommend for SEO beginners to be always in trend? Sites, blogs, forums, etc.
Yeah, so there's actually Feedly just published a really nice list of good blogs for SEOs to subscribe to. So I might check out Feedly's list. I would also say, there's kind of the big ones, right? Search Engine Land, Moz, SEO Book, Search Engine Roundtable. You sort of subscribe to those, and then you'll get a sense for who else is in the blogging space and what you can pick up off of there. And then I definitely advise beginners to SEO to check out the Beginner's Guide to SEO, which is on Moz's website. That's a pretty good free resource. And then I would suggest that if you haven't already, start your own website. Right? Build a website about something you're passionate about. Try and get some rankings. Try and build some content. Build some links. That kind of thing. That will kickstart your SEO education.
Okay, thank you. As I said, there were a lot of questions from our students, and one of them is about Moz tools. What are the main and the greatest features of Moz tools you recommend to use compared with Majestic and Ahrefs?
Majestic and Ahrefs. So both of those are link-based tools. They're essentially great for finding links, discovering link opportunities, that kind of thing. One of my favorites from Moz that the other two don't have, or I like the Moz version the best, is if you check out Open Site Explorer's Link Opportunities tab, you'll see 3 different ways to get links to your site. One of those is through Link Intersect, one of those is through broken link building, and one of those is through unlinked mentions. All 3 of those are pretty sweet for finding great link building opportunities. So I really like those. Moz's metrics are also really good. So domain authority and page authority are still kind of the best in the field according to a bunch of third-party sources. And so I would use those generally when doing reporting. Ahrefs and Majestic, I love both of those for the comprehensiveness, the size and freshness of their indexes. So you can often find a lot more links in Ahrefs and Majestic that you won't necessarily find in Moz. I think Moz needs to get bigger for sure, but that's a great benefit of using those other tools.
Okay, thank you. Another one question from our students: what is the best SEO strategy for local business, for small local business?
Yeah, for local business, I think local businesses have a few things they need to think about. They need to think about whether the rankings that they're going after are primarily through maps and local algorithm, or whether they're through classic web search and sort of the organic search results. For local, the algorithm is very dependent on your business listings and the citation sources that Google uses. Links can be helpful, but they're not nearly as powerful as they are in organic web search. So you really want to work on that citation consistency, sources, all that kind of thing. And you can do some competitive research. In the US and soon in the UK, you can use Moz Local, which is helpful for that too. I also really like a tool called WhiteSpark, which is based in Canada, and they work in a number of markets as well. For organic web search, I think local businesses need to decide what types of keywords they really want to rank for, what things bring them great business value, and then what content and resources they can produce that many people will link to and want to share and find authoritative and valuable, that they can produce on a budget, because local small businesses don't have the ability to invest a ton of effort ongoing into web marketing. And so it really comes down to chasing after a small set, oftentimes less than 10 keyword phrases that really matter to them.
One of our students, Anna, asked a rather personal question, but I think that it will be interesting to many. You built one of the greatest SEO communities in the world. What ideas, principles, and rules helped you to do it?
Yeah. So for us, a few things were really big. One was being very interactive with our community, talking to people, connecting with them, being responsive, being fast. The second one was participating in other SEO communities and other web marketing communities so that people knew who I was. A third one was producing content that was helpful to people and being very empathetic to them. If someone reached out via email, if they reached out in the comments and asked for help, we would always try and provide it, go above and beyond. And I think those things really help build the Moz community.
Okay, thank you. And maybe the last question for our interview. Name, please, the main 5 SEO trends for the 2015 year. What are the greatest 5 SEO trends, do you think?
5 greatest SEO trends. Well, I think one of them is definitely the move to content marketing. A lot of SEOs are investing in content marketing, content amplification, content strategy. So that's a big one. Second one that I see is a lot of folks thinking about app search and app search optimization, especially with apps appearing in Google search results. I think a third one is the increasing overlap of social media marketing and SEO. That's been a trend for a couple of years, but it's really coming back strong now that Twitter is much more integrated with Google. And an additional trend around social media marketing is Facebook search has been growing pretty dramatically. And so now a lot of businesses, especially local businesses, are thinking about how they can appear in Facebook search results. A fourth one that I think we're seeing is a trend around instant answers and how and whether SEOs can do a good job of appearing in the instant answers and whether they can get traffic from those and ways to do that. We've seen some good blog posts on that subject and some successful attempts at that. I think that'll continue to be a trend. And then fifth and finally, I think we're seeing some interesting moves around regulation. So Google's right to privacy is in Europe expanding. There are more and more governments and countries that are trying to get that. We're also seeing the EU take regulatory action against Google, and they're probably not the only country to do so. Google's obviously had some challenges in China and in other places. So interesting to see how regulation is playing. So those would be my 5.
Okay, Ryan, thank you. It was really great interview. I think that it was really important for our audience. And thank you one more time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Anton.